Hello everyone, happy Saturday. Hello, happy Saturday. Okay, so people are starting to join. I hope you're all having a good weekend so far. So last week we were talking about something quite serious, the coronavirus. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. This week we're going to be talking about job interviews. So today I'm going to be telling you guys how you can impress in a job interview. And you're going to be learning some techniques that you can use not only in job interviews, but if you have, for example, a visa interview or... Can you all hear me, by the way? I don't have my earphones in today, so I just want to make sure you can all hear me. Good to see you, Eddie. Okay. Can you guys please say yes if you can hear me, first of all? I can hear your voice, perfect. Okay, so today, as I said, we'll be talking about job interviews, but you're going to be learning some language that you can also use if, for example, you have a visa interview, or if you are interviewing for maybe a school or university, or even if you are on a date. So you're going to be learning how you can impress people. So even if you're not applying for a job in English sometime soon, there are still lots of useful tips and language that I will be teaching. So first of all, we're going to start with some discussion questions to warm up. So I'm going to be asking you guys about jobs and your experiences. And then, just like we did in the previous weeks, we'll have some vocabulary. So I'm going to give you guys a sentence, and you should complete it using the word or words that you think are appropriate. And after that, I'll be giving you some common interview questions, but also some challenging ones. And you will need to write an appropriate answer. And I'm going to be choosing whose answer is best for each. And the winner is the one who gets the job. So let's get started with some discussion questions first of all. So I'm just going to post the structure of the class here. So we will have, first of all, a discussion, number 1. And then we are going to have some vocabulary. And then we are going to practice. And if we have time at the end, we will do a short Q&A. So let's get chatting first of all. So the first question is, what is your dream job? So if you could do any job in the world, what would it be? So perhaps right now you're already doing your dream job, which is great. I would consider being a professor one of my dream jobs, but what I would really love to do is I love chocolate. So I would love to be a professional chocolate taster. This is my dream job. And when I first came to Korea and I saw like mukbang, which we don't have in the West, I was so amazed. Wow, these people actually get paid to eat. So I think this is a pretty great job as well. So I'd like you guys to write down what your dream job is. So be creative, use your imagination. My dream job is just working at home, Joseph. So doing what at home? Working or just watching TV, or what do you want to do at home as your dream job? Speaking 10 languages? Wow. So what kind of job would that be, Autumn? Maybe as like a translator, or what kind of job would you like to do? Translator? Okay, great. My job is to be the best father in the world. Wow, great answer, Apple. Translator, Joseph, communicating with global people. Wow, you guys have a lot of dreams related to language. That's great. My other dream job would be Ryan Gosling's assistant. So if you guys know Ryan Gosling, the actor from La La Land, I love him. So this would also be my dream job. If I could just work for him every day, this would be perfect. Okay, so we've got some answers. A lot of them are related to language and translation. Okay, next question is, what's the worst job you've ever had? So it can be like a part-time job, or it can be something that you did full-time. So what's the worst job you've ever had? So I have had so many terrible jobs, because before I came to Korea, I was backpacking in Australia. And so I had just graduated from college. I was very poor, so I had to really take any kind of job I could get. So when I went to Australia, I spent all my savings so quickly. I was very irresponsible. And I contacted my dad and said, "Oh, I only have $20 left in my account. Please send me money." And he said, "No, you have to find a job." So I was stuck. I was eating ramyun for a week and just applying to every job that I could find. And when you do a working holiday in Australia, you must work in a farm if you want to stay in Australia for an extra year. So you can stay for 1 year, and then if you work on a farm for 3 months, then they will give you an extra year to live in Australia. So I was working on a farm picking chilies. The chilies were like this size. So I had to pick them off the tree and fill a bucket. And it was like 40-degree weather. I was working for like maybe 14 hours a day. And I was getting paid like $3 per bucket, which was a huge bucket. So it was the worst job I've ever had. So Joseph said maybe construction. Okay, it hurts your body. Yeah, construction sounds like not an ideal job. And in Korea, construction workers seem to work every day of the week. It's crazy. Department store. So Rose, why was the department store so bad? Apple car cleaning and building cleaning in New Zealand. Wow, I didn't know you lived in New Zealand. Wow, that sounds like a tough job, especially if people aren't taking care of their cars. So some interesting answers there. I guess in the West, we become financially independent when we're 18. So as soon as we go to university, we have to get a part-time job. Our parents don't support us anymore. So we're kind of forced to pick up like part-time jobs at a young age. So sometimes we do really, really tough jobs. In a bakery, the owner was bad. Oh yeah, the owner can have a big effect on your job. Architectural designer, the boss was a fraud. Oh my gosh, wow, okay. So some of you are saying your boss makes your job difficult. Yeah, which is definitely true. So I'll just take a few more answers if anyone wants to say the worst job they've ever had, and then we'll move on to the next question. Okay, everyone is very quiet today. Maybe nobody wants to admit that they've had bad jobs. Hard to clean up the warehouse for part-time. Yeah, that sounds really difficult, Rose. Anything involving cleaning, I think, can be, yeah, really, really tough. So the next question is, and you have to be honest, have you ever lied on your resume or during a job interview? So often on our resume or in a job interview, we tell like little lies, not big ones, but just to make ourselves look good or to impress. So sometimes it's kind of inevitable. So I hope I don't lose my job for this. But before I started working at the university, I was very nervous in front of the camera. And of course, for this job, I'm always on camera. So during the job interview, they asked me, how do you feel about being in front of a camera? And of course, I couldn't say, oh, it terrifies me, because I wouldn't have gotten the job. So, oh yeah, like I feel quite confident. So I had to tell a small lie. So I hope that my boss isn't watching this, or I might be sleeping on the street next week. So that was just a small lie. So Joseph, because of your army service. So you didn't go to army service? Oh, so Millie made her working, I think Millie is a female? So Millie, you made your working experience period to be longer. This is a very common lie, okay, to tell on an interview. Resumes need lying? Only replacement service. So when I was about 21, also when I was looking for my first job, I read that on a CV or resume, you should like write kind of like unique talents or hobbies that you have to make you stand apart. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, I don't really have anything that's very unique. So I put down on my resume that I loved kayaking, which is so random. I don't know how I decided this, but I was very young and immature at the time. I had gone kayaking once and I loved it. So it wasn't my hobby, but it was like kind of partially true. But of course, then I went to the interview and the interviewer also loved kayaking. So it was asking me different questions about it. And I was thinking, oh my God, like trying to change the subject. So Apple, you've never lied in an interview or resume? I'm disappointed. Rose, no? Okay. So some of you have lied. Some of you are very honest. I think most people in the West will admit that they tell a small lie, or we can say stretch the truth in our resume or interview. So stretch the truth means like it's partially true. Like for example, me with my kayaking. It was kind of a hobby because I did it once or twice and I liked it, but it wasn't really the true definition of a hobby. So I kind of stretched the truth out a little bit there. So we are going to learn some vocabulary in relation to this. So the vocabulary today is, there are words that we commonly use. So I'm going to, as always, paste the sentence and you guys need to complete the blank with a word or words that you think can fit into the sentence. So on our resume, we often list so on our CV or resume, we often list our So if you're not sure about the difference between a CV and resume, a CV is usually longer. It has no limits. So you give a lot of details about your education and your work experience, whereas a resume is usually shorter, so around 1 page or a maximum of 2. And it's more specifically tailored to the job you're applying for. So the goal is to really just emphasize how you stand out from the other candidates instead of just stating everything that you've done in terms of work and education. So, Eunice has exaggerated her career. Okay, so a few of you seem to have done that, so made your working periods longer. That's quite a common one. Okay, so Hyunju says, on our CV or resume, we often list our education background. Okay, great. Usually we say educational background because here educational is the adjective, so it's describing the background, so educational background. Anything else? So CV, Rose, is like a document where you list the things that your employer may want to see in a job interview. So a CV is more common in the UK, I think. A resume is more common in Korea. So a CV, as I mentioned before, there is no limit to the length of a CV. So a CV can be like 3 or 4 pages. So you write down every place you've worked. You write down all of your education. So high school, university, master's, etc. A resume is usually shorter. So I think in Korea, often I am usually asked for a resume when I apply for a job. So it's specifically tailored to the job. That, like a CV, you could probably send to any company, whereas a resume, you need to be quite specific and put in the information that you think the employer is looking for. So official English test, so work experience, working period, yes, so we can say work experience and working period. Good. Certificates, yeah. So in the West, certificates aren't so important. We only put a certificate if it's very relevant to our job. So for example, I have a certificate in teaching adults, TESOL, so I put that. But there seems to be like a trend where Koreans get a lot of different certificates, like computer certificates. One of my students has a bus driving certificate, an accounting certificate, a kindergarten teacher certificate. She has so many. So if you have a lot of certificates, it's not good to put all of those because it may seem to the employer that you can't really decide what career field you want to work in. So it can actually go against you. But we only put in certificates if they're very relevant to the job that we want to apply for. So extracurricular activities, good, Hyunju. Licenses. So again, yeah, licenses is like, we don't really have those in the West. The main job that you get a license for would be for accounting or for law. But for other jobs, we don't really require a license usually. So we don't need to put in that information. So yeah, I think you guys answered well. So we can say educational background, work experience. We can also say qualifications. So qualifications just means any qualities or achievements that make us suitable for a job. So perhaps you have done some kind of course, special course, like you guys mentioned, then that would be considered a qualification. If you have done some kind of volunteering that can contribute to your job or your area of work, that's also a qualification. So you can fill in that blank with educational background, work experience, working period, and also qualifications. Now, in a Korean resume, the layout is very different than a Western one, because in the Korean resume, you must put your photo. And we do not have that in the West. It's totally illegal. An employer cannot ask because it can cause discrimination. So even now in the West, usually we don't put our gender because it's so strict about hiring policies and trying to make everything equal. So in job interviews here, like I usually have to send my photo before, and sometimes I've been asked things like, do you smoke? Do you drink alcohol? Once I was asked my weight. Like, this is totally illegal in the West. You cannot ask this information. So there are very, very strict rules. And so unfortunately, I had to do a resume photo for Korea, and it's very photoshopped. But yeah, so it's a little bit different. So age as well. Yeah, so we don't put our age in the West usually for a job interview. Okay.